पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवतां नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम्
अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणी भगवती अष्टादशाध्यायिनी अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी. We have to start now an objection is raised.
Last time we limited on para. Now an objection is raised, yes.
Yeah, right.
Now an objection is raised against the cited example. When I see a man with a stick, I see both the possessor, the man, and the possession, the stick.
Swamiji, before that we'll tell him. Swamiji.
Now an objection is raised against the cited example. When I see a man with a stick, I see both the possessor, the man, and the possession, the stick, whereas ignorance and the one who has it are not seen directly by me. Then we ask, how does he know that there is ignorance? If they are directly perceived, he claims the question will be meaningless. But they are not.
Before we proceed with this discussion, see, basically what the discussion is all about is avidya belongs to whom? Okay. So there is a rule. What belongs to the karanam does not belong to the kartuhu. There is a rule in Shastra. Karanam is an instrument. Kartuhu is the person who uses the instrument. Simple English. So, avidya, that is ignorance, belongs to the instrument. So it cannot belong to you, the person who uses the instrument. This is a general rule. On that background, if you read this para, you will be able to appreciate it better. Yeah, read it.
But they are not. Naturally, I want to know to whom does this ignorance belong? How can you say my question is meaningless?
Excuse me, Swamiji. Shall we read the previous? Shall we read the previous para also? It will be more clear then. Previous para.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. Yeah.
Shankara gives a very drastic answer to this. He says that this avidya belongs to the one who asks, where is avidya? He does not say here that it is located in Atma or Anatma, but simply says that it belongs to the one for whom the avidya is seen, but its location is to be known. It is obvious avidya belongs to the person who says it, meaning it is located in that person by whom it is recognized. If ignorance is seen, the seer of the ignorance, the one who has avidya, is also recognized. Whether you say, I have ignorance, or he has ignorance, ignorance is seen. If you see someone with a stick in hand, you need not ask who has the stick. The question is meaningless, because both the stick and the possessor of the stick are seen simultaneously. Similarly, if the ignorance is seen, the one who has it is also recognized. If you see the ignorance, you have it, and ask to whom does this ignorance belong is improper. The very recognition of the ignorance is recognition of the person who has it.
Correct. Yeah. That is what I was telling.
Yes.
See, the karanam instrument, who is using the instrument, and the person who uses the instrument is different from the instrument that he uses. And if avidya belongs to the instrument, then she cannot ask where does the ignorance belong, because he has the instrument in his hand. That is why he recognizes the ignorance. Then he cannot ask where it belongs. That is what he is using by an example of stick in hand. Now, the example is questioning. The person who is asking the question, to whom avidya belongs, instead of trying to use the example to understand what Shankara is trying to tell, he is questioning the example. Read the example. Yeah.
When I see both the possessor, the man, and the possession, when I see a man with a stake,
No one objection. Again that.
Yeah, now one objection is raised against the
against the
cited
cited example. When I see a man with a stake, I see both the possessor, the man, and the possession, the stick. Whereas ignorance is the one who has it or not seen directly by me.
Yeah, this is general argument. They generally say Puravastite Vishaya, even in Brahma Sutra it comes, Puravastite Vishaya eva, I can have a question. Like, what I see only I can question. Since both the stick and the possessor of the stick I see,
directly.
and I can see both, and so I can ask the question about the sense. But in this case, I don't see ignorance. That's what he's trying to say. Yeah.
Whereas ignorance and the one who has it are not seen directly by me, then we ask, how does he know that there is ignorance? If they are directly perceived, he claims.
The very fact you know that there is ignorance, he knows. He cannot feign ignorance. Very fact you are asking that ignorance is there, that means you know. Then why do you ask the question? That's what he is asking. Yeah.
He claims the question will be meaningless, but they are not. Naturally, I want to know, to whom does this ignorance belong? How can you say my question is meaningless? Shankara responds to this with a question of his own. If I answer your question and the connection between the ignorance and the ignorant becomes known to you indirectly through my words, what is accomplished by you? To which the opponent answers that if all samsara is due to avidya, it should be removed and therefore he wants to know. Then Shankara says, since you do not see ignorance directly, why do you bother about it? Whoever sees ignorance directly has to remove it.
Yeah, that he says, basically what he means is, if you don't know anything about ignorance, why are you bothered? Then he says, no, I have, to which the opponent answers, okay, then the opponent acknowledges that avidya belongs to him. Then only he agrees. Yeah.
And he wants to remove it.
Yeah.
Swamiji, how does he know that he is avidya?
Because he has samsara, simple.
You are in samsara. You know that you are in samsara.
Friends, you are not happy. Samsara means what? Everything is changing. Samsarati is samsara, meaning continuously changing. And I don't want even my happiness also changes. My sukha changes, okay, dukkha changes, but sukha also changes. But I want to be sukhi. All the time I want to be. That is what I want to. Finally, my objective in life is to be a sukhi all the time. I don't want to be changing sukhi. That is called samsara. Samsaritvam, actually samsara is okay. As I always tell, samsara is not a problem. Samsaritvam is a problem. That I perceive myself to be buffeted by the samsara. So that alignment, that total identification with the changing world, yo-yo mentality, like what they say, no? Pleasure vanda or pakam pendulum. Minus vanda or pakam pendulum. Be articulate. That yo-yo mentality, it's called yo-yo mentality. You identify yourself with the pendulum and then say how to get out of this. That is, getting out of this is just you have to understand that pendulum is pendulum. Why you identify yourself with it? You are the one who is seeing that pendulum. That means that the samsara that moves all the time changing, you are seeing that. That is why you are able to say it is changing. Very fact, you are saying that it is changing all the time. How you are able to say that? Because you are seeing the change. When you are seeing the change, you can't be the change. If you are the change, you cannot see it. You are changeless. That is why you are seeing the changing. So the changing is different from you. The samsara is different from you. Your identification with the samsara makes you a samsari. So samsara is not a problem. Samsari is a problem. So aparoksha samsari becomes a aparoksha asamsari, meaning a person who thinks that he is a samsari because of avidya becomes a samsari by understanding that avidya does not belong to me, it is an instrument, it is because of the mind. So finally what it means is avidya belongs to the karanam, the instrument. Instrument is what? Buddhi. So that buddhi, wherever avidya is, there you have to remove it. That removing is done by vidya. But both are happening in the karanam only, it's not in you. You are always Purnam Brahma, Advaitam Brahma and all that, Brahma, Atma, etc. Nothing really happens to you. Your association makes you a samsari. That's what he's trying to say. Read it further, yeah.
Actually, Swamiji, that Kathopanishad you had sent, that only because of you seek happiness, always it is external, no? All the senses go out. No, that
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's all the sense. Senses
You are not
are
able
kept like that because senses go out, that's fine. But that very fact the senses are going out, who is handling the senses? That's what. The karana is different from the karta. The being is different from the instruments by which you see the world. Don't identify yourself with the world, with the with the senses and the mind. Mind, the senses, buddhi, emotion, ego, everything you are seeing. Anything you see is other than what you are. A simple rule. Anything we see, the thing I see here is different from what I am. How can I assume myself that I am the mobile? I cannot see. I have the mobile. Same way I have the mind. So I have the buddhi. And avidya belongs to what? An instrument. Instrument of buddhi. Then why do you say I am having avidya? You having avidya in the buddhi. Remove it by vidya. Over. Don't identify it. Very fact you identify yourself with the buddhi, mind, ego, etc. All the defects of the buddhi, etc. You identify yourself with and suffer. So that delinking, that is precisely the whole Shastra is all about. The whole thing is about delinking. That is different way they are trying to. Let us read this further. We will get to know have some clarity. Yeah.
Then the opponent acknowledges that avidya belongs to him and he wants to remove it. That being so, Shankara's original statement stands. You know avidya and therefore you are the one who has it. If you see it directly, it certainly belongs to you and it is not legitimate to ask to whom does it belong. If you ask how to remove the avidya, that's a valid question. Any ignorance with whether it is avidya, that is the cause of samsara or avidya, of a particle, will go in the wake of knowledge. Therefore, all you need to ask is what is this Atma?
See, the another thing is, the reason behind this question, see, there is an ulterior motive behind this question. The ulterior motive behind this question is, Atma has avidya. They want to, all the Dvaitis, the sense, for them everything is real. Basically, your Atma is real, your avidya is real, and that you are different from Ishvara is real, so everything is real. So, the very fact they are asking, where does avidya belong? If they want an answer, a favorable answer like, avidya is with the Atma, which is not reality. It is not reality. Because avidya belongs to the instrument. And we are not the instrument. We are the one who are handling the instrument. So one now finally has agreed, yes, I have got avidya and I want to remove Atma. Then what? Therefore, all of you need to ask is what is Atma. Now you have to understand what is this Atma. That is how now Shankara takes that argument. Yeah.
The only one that does not need a means of knowledge to reveal its presence, existence, is Atma. Everything else becomes evident to Atma the Self. Ignorance about the self-evident Self is also evident to the Self.
So this self-evident and evident to the self is the we can talk of Swamiji, which I have shared with you. The whole thing. Yeah. You will be elaborately talking about the self-evident and what is evident to the self. Yeah. He is not available for any transaction. It is Desha Kala Vastu Aparichinnam. It is not available empirically to talk about with in comparison with what is evident to the self. What is evident to the self is empirical. You can see and you can, because it's all available for all other pramanas. What is evident to the self is also equally available for other pramanas like pratyaksha, anumana, inference, sartapati and all that, like all science and other things. So you are able to easily relate to what is evident to the self. But when it comes to self-evidence, all science, everything goes out of the window. And even Shastra goes out of the window. Ultimately, even Shastra cannot, you are Swata Siddha. You are the beauty of the word self-evident. Why self-evident? Because it need not be evidenced to you, even through Shastra. Even Shastra has not come and tell you that you exist. Does anyone has to tell you that you exist? You don't have to ask your neighbor whether I exist. That is the beauty. It is the beauty of self-existence. That is why Brahma Sutra says, Shastrasyavi Yonitva. Even Shastra comes from me. The whole Shastra has been put together by me for people who don't understand. For the person who understands, even Shastra is for used only as a boat to be given to others. He has already crossed the boat. The boat is no more useful to him.
Yes.
Because self-evident Atma is Atmani, Atmana, Tushtaha, Tita Pragyastu Uchyate, that we have already crossed. Since there are people who are still asking about those questions, then the discussion continues. Otherwise, we know already, Prajahati Yata Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan, Atmani, Atmana Tushtaha, Stita Pragyastu Uchyate, that we have already crossed. So we know exactly. So this question is for people who have not yet understood what is Atma. That is why he is asking what is Atma. Yeah, read. What is this Atma?
The only one that does not need a means of knowledge to reveal its presence, existence, is Atma. Everything else becomes evident to Atma, the Self. Ignorance about the self-evident Self is also evident to the Self. Very clear. To say I am ignorant, one has to have ignorance about the Self. Ignorance though known to one is superimposed upon Atma to enable one to make this statement, I am ignorant.
Further, only when avidya is taken as satya do we have to find its location and otherwise account for it. Because it is mithya, it has its location in Atma, as do all other forms of anatma. It is not the property, dharma of Atma. Due to avidya, Atma is taken as the karta, bhokta and samsari, and therefore Shastra is resorted to for the destruction of avidya.
முல்லை முள்ளால் எடுக்கணும்னு சொல்றோம் இல்லையா? முல்லை முள்ளால் எடுக்கணும். அவித்யான ஒரு முள்ள, வித்யாங்கிற முள்ளால எடுக்கணும். ரெண்டு முள்ளு தான், ரெண்டையும் கடத்துக்கு துவ பண்ண வேண்டியதான். Just because ஒரு முள்ளு இந்த முள்ள இருக்கிற முள்ள எடுத்ததுனால எடுக்கிற முள்ள வச்சு பார்த்து தங்கப்பட்டியில வச்சுக்கிறது இல்லையா நம்ம? Both the முள்ளு immediately we dispose it off. You have done your job, forget it. So likewise, yeah.
We are not seeking knowledge of avidya, but of the vastu of which we are ignorant. I take myself to be a doer and enjoyer. The Shruti tells me that I am Sat Chit Anandam Advayam Brahma. Thus, we have two different visions. But what the Shruti says is highly desirable, and therefore I either want to know if it is true, or accept that it is true and seek to understand it. Either way, inquiry begins. The Gita says, understand me, the Lord, as the Atma, the Kshetrajna, in all the physical bodies. This being so, I should try to understand it. If I have the experience of samsara, it is due to the ignorance of this fact, my ignorance. Thus, it is not appropriate to ask to whom does the ignorance belong. It is clear that it belongs to the one who is asking the question. This is not a dismissive answer, but a very appropriate one, because we are not trying to establish ignorance here. We are trying to remove it. We are inquiring into the vastu. Further, ignorance is not a substance. It has only some sort of existence. As long as it is there, like everything else, that is mithya. If it is a substance, we can analyze it and questions of its location and so on, gain some validity. Moreover, ignorance is always of something, the original ignorance being that of Atma. We call it original because it sets up the problem of taking myself to be a knower. The real question to be asked is, am I a knower? When Krishna says that the Kshetrajna is the knower, it is only a figurative knower that is meant here. The nature of Atma is pure knowledge, jnana. But because everything else is taken as known, jnaya, we call it knower, jnata, which is to be understood as Chaitanya Atma. Anything regarding the jnata that is recognized by you, such as the seer, thinker and so on, becomes known, jnaya. The real jnata is Chaitanya, and the word knower is purely figurative. Ignorance is not definable as absolutely existent or non-existent. Sat asabdhyam anirvachaniya. You cannot. Sat
is
asabdhyam.
the definition of Vidya, basically. The definition of Vidya.
Sat asabdhyam anirvachaniya. You cannot say ignorance does not exist because a rope does get mistaken for a snake. Its power not only to conceal but to create is proof of its existence. Ignorance is not mere absence of knowledge, but something that has projected the samsari. Absence of something, including knowledge, cannot produce anything. Because it is capable of producing, we have to concede that it has some existence. It does not substantiate itself, however, but has to depend upon something else for that, and therefore avidya is not independently existent. Like everything else, we cannot say it is satya because it is not independently existent, nor is it non-existent because it creates. It is purely mithya and is therefore located in the Satvastu, Atma, which is the only thing that can really be defined, because for one thing, it has no parts. If it had parts, you could always discover new parts and never arrive at one absolute substance. Final knowledge is possible only with reference to Atma being Brahman, and that knowledge is complete because it is knowledge of the whole. It is not subject to improvement or alteration. Thus, if the conclusion...
Here, this Sat Asatyam Anirvachaniyam. So what it means is, I have told you before also once, Satchet na badeta, Asatchet na pratiyeta. To sense, Sat means, if it is avidya, is Sat means existence all the time, then it will never go. Okay. At the same time, Asat, if it is not existent, means it will not be available for you. Whereas here we find that Vidya's expression is always there. In the sense we ourselves find ourselves ignorant on so many things. One more ignorance is about knowledge of self. So, very fact that it is pratiyeta, you can't dismiss it as asat. But at the same time, it is not sat because with knowledge, ignorance goes. Anything for that matter. With the language knowledge, language ignorance goes. With some knowledge, some ignorance. So it keeps going. So ignorance, it is not sat. At the same time, the repercussions of avidya we are always seeing in everything. Vidya of anything, has its own repercussion. The same way, avidya of Atma has its repercussion that you, since you don't know about Atma, you take it yourself otherwise, so and suffer. So, even though it is not very tangible, you can't show and say this is Atma, this is avidya, but at the same time, the effect of it we are seeing. So, that is why it's called Mithya. Sat, Asatvyam, Anirvachaniyam. Mithya meaning it's not that totally non-existent, but at the same time not totally existent. It has its own ramifications which you want to get rid of by Mithya. And then both of them being Mithya, they go, something get established yourself as Atma. That's all. Thereafter, Avidya, Mithya does not disturb you. Once you know Mithya is Mithya and understand the Satyam on which Mithya is spread, Mithya thereafter it doesn't disturb you. You deal with it. Like even as I have always told the example that we know very well sun does not rise or set, but still we enjoy sunrise. We make all our horoscope on sunrise. All those things are going on, but we know very well neither sun rises nor sun sets. So that Mithya does not disturb us anymore. Having known that it's Mithya. Likewise blue sky. Blue sky, there is no blue sky, there is no ceiling on top of us. It's just a space. So, but because of the light refraction, it shows as blue. But still we enjoy blue sky. We know that there is no blue sky. So Mithya does not disturb you as long as you know that it is Mithya. And what is the basis, Satyam, behind that? Then there is no issue. That is how ignorance of Atma, once you get it off by Mithya, thereafter that the Badita Anuvritti, meaning as though your samsaritvam is existing, because everyone, even though you might have understood, everyone around the whole world is going to run on the basis of samsaritvam. The whole world is running on the basis of samsaritvam. That you cannot avoid. That is called Badita Anuvritti, meaning, like even as I quoted the example, rising sun and the blue sky and all that, whatever happens around you will keep happening. But you know the reality of it. So you won't get buffeted. You will not get disturbed by what is happening around you. You will be able to accept it as Mithya and deal with it as Mithya. And you are Satyam. You are on top of it. That is what is the beauty of the whole thing. Nothing changes except your understanding. Yeah.
Thus, if the conclusion that one is a samsari has to go, avidya has to be removed. That conclusion is located in the antakarana, which in turn is located in avidya, and avidya is located in atma. That avidya has to be removed, for which a vritti is required. Vedanta produces the vritti that removes ignorance of the self being Brahman. Now another objection is raised. Kshetra is full of defects. The body has the problems of old age and pain, etc. The sense organs have their limitations, as does the antakarana, which in addition suffers changes, not always pleasant. As Atma goes on looking at the kshetra with all these limitations, is it not like a father seeing a son who is given to crime? When he looks at him, his blood pressure goes up. So too, the kshetrajna will be disturbed seeing the kshetra so full of defects. Any kshetra has problems, and therefore he argues the kshetrajna looking at the kshetra cannot be very happy. He is bound to be affected by the very sight.
Yeah, before we go further, I'll tell you. See, here, both the father and son belong to the same level of reality. Whereas, the Atma and the limitations of Kshetra are not in the same level of reality. Because Kshetra has dimensions. Born in time, gone in time, born in space, gone in space, and also causality is there, so bound and in a body and all that. Whereas Kshetrajna, we have said, it is timeless, spaceless, objectless. So the level of reality being different, it is not going to get affected by what is happening in the Kshetra. Like even space does not get affected by the limitations of a part. Both the part space and total space, even though you can call it part space and total space bifurcation, that is only in the language. As far as space is concerned, there is no bifurcation. So space is not going to be affected because I am restricted by a part or something like that. So in the same way, Kshetrajna, being a different level of reality, is not going to be affected by the limitations of the Kshetra. That is what it is. That's so the levels of reality being different. Now let us see what he says. Yeah.
Shankara says that this is not true. Though Atma knows the Kshetra, it is only a figurative knowing. Aupakarika jnana.
Upacharika jnana. Upacharika jnana means just upacharam. Just figurative.
Upacharika.
Just told. There's nothing like, yeah.
Because it cannot undergo any change. 1 minute. There is no act of knowing for Atma. The Swarupa, nature of Atma is changeless, consciousness, and simply by nature it illumines the Kshetra. It does not perform the action of illumining. Shankara says it is like fire burning. Fire does not perform the action of burning, but because it is hot by nature, it burns. If it were an action, it could sometimes burn, sometimes not. But an object that comes into contact with fire invariably is burned and at least heated. Wherever there is fire, there will be heat. Saying that fire burns is what we call upachara. The expression is relevant but not literal. Just as how fire burns without performing an action, Atma illumines the entire kshetra, that includes the I thought. It does not decide to illumine and then do it. It just illumines because its nature is consciousness. So when we say that Atma is knower, it is important to understand that it is the knower's swarupa. We call it knower because it illumines, but since it undergoes no change, therefore performs no action, nor does it have any response to what it illumines. Bhagavan has shown
That is
elsewhere
because,
in the
see,
Gita.
it is basically the knower-known relationship. Why he is trying to say is that because Kshetrajna and Kshetra. Kshetrajna, one who knows the Kshetra, is called Kshetrajna. So the Purvapaksha is trying to say that there can be a relationship between the Kshetrajna and Kshetra. Since the Kshetrajna knows the Kshetra, he must be affected by the Kshetra. That is his level of argument, which he has dismissed by quoting the example of fire. Just because fire burns something, it has no connection with the burn. This is by nature, like even the sun. The sun lights up the whole thing. You cannot say sun illumines. Even though we use the word sun illumines, sun is not sitting and illuminating. It is just by its nature it illumines things. So there is no connection between the sun that illumines the gutter and the sun that illumines water in a pot. Both it illumines by its nature. It does not get affected by the gutter or by the water. So likewise, Atma illumines the Kshetra, even though it is called Kshetrajna, it does not get affected by the Kshetra. That's what he is saying. Yeah.
Swamiji, this Purvapakshi and Nayayika, both of them hold different views.
The
Opposite
Purvapaksha is a common terminology. Actually, Nayayika, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Bauddha, they are called sectarian philosophers, whereas they got a philosophy of their own. Whereas Purvapaksha is generally a person who is trying to understand what the Shastra says. He has got a Shraddha, he raises questions like a student. Basically, you can say even a student. So Purvapaksha is a common terminology. He is necessarily not a person who has got, he subscribes to other views of philosophy. He is interested in knowing the truth. So Purvapaksha Siddhanta, sometimes it is there sitting along with Shukra, or sometimes he may be a student also, or sometimes he may be in a debate and Purvapaksha may raise a question, Siddhanta can answer. So Purvapaksha is a common terminology. It does not belong to any of the groups or sects of Vadis. Vadis meaning Nayayika, Satkaryavadi, Asatkaryavadi, all those things, Vishishtadvaita, even our own theologies, Saivism, Vaishnavism, all those things. They are having a specific philosophy, they are committed to the philosophy, they will argue from the philosophy. Here, Purvapaksha is just a person who wants to know the truth. That is the difference between Purvapaksha and Nayayika. Sometimes the Nayayika can be involved in the discussion with Shankara, that time he will be called Purvapaksha. Or sometimes Vaisheshika. Mostly in Shastra it will be Sankhya. Sankhya meaning a person who says like yoga philosophy, that is Atmas are many, Pradhan, Prakriti, that lay to come here. Purusha and Prakriti. No, Prakriti is the Jagat and Purusha is Sankhya's philosophy actually. Purusha is Atmas are many and there is one Prakriti. That is the order, that which what you can say is the Jagat. Everything is connected and all that. That whole connected Jagat is one order. That is there common for all. Atmas, individuals are all many. Everyone is connected to the Prakriti and all that. That is their philosophy. So it's a philosophy. It's a different philosophy discussion is different. Purva Paksha Siddhanta different discussion. The discussion is different. Here, what we are discussing is only Purva Paksha Siddhanta, which we find in Shankara Bhashya. Yeah.
Bhagavan has shown elsewhere in the Gita that Atma has no action, has none of the factors necessary for performing an action, and has no result accruing to it. Kriya, Karaka, and Phala do not belong to Atma. Atma is not the object of any action. Nainam chiddandi shastrani. Weapons do not cut it, nor is it an agent. Naam hanti. It does not destroy, nor does it enjoy any result in the form of sukha or dukkha. Na datte kasyachit papam, na chaiva sukritam vibhuhu. The all-pervasive one does not take on to itself the result of anyone's wrongdoing or good action. He does not become the recipient, meaning he is not in any way affected by the result of any action, either punya or papa. As you cannot pollute or beautify the space, because being without form and all-pervasive, it is not available for such actions, so too no papa or punya is taken on by Atma.
Yeah, this is what I am trying to say. We have to look at the whole thing, no? The level of reality, which I always discuss. The level of reality between Atma and Anatma, Kshetra and Kshetrajna are totally different. You cannot compare apples and oranges. So, the Atma's definition, which we have understood right from the second chapter, is here it says Nainam Chintati Shastrani, meaning what? Something which does not have a form. It is formless, nameless, limitless, timeless, spaceless, not even an object. It is not even a thing. It is just the being. How can it get affected by anything? It does not have limbs. Niravayavaha. So it does not get affected by anything. That's what they are elaborately explaining. Kriya, Karaka belongs to whom? That we have seen that Brahma, Brahma, Brahma. All those Karakas belong to somebody with a limb. Kai, Kale, but here there is nothing. There is no being. There is only the being. There is no time. There is no space. There is no object. How it can get affected? That is what he is trying to. It is comparing it with space also. Like even space does not get affected by whether it is space, whether it doesn't get affected by fire. It doesn't get affected by water also. It accommodates both. But doesn't get affected in any which way. Even space cannot get affected. How can Atma, in which space exists, can get affected? Because in the sleep, even space is not there, but you are there. So that means you are ulterior to space. So if space itself is not getting affected, that we are able to see in all the examples, how can I get affected? How can Atma get affected? That is this question. Yeah.
Bhagavan has said, Enam veti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubautau na vijanito nayam hantina hanyate. The one who looks upon this Atma as the destroyer, or the one who looks upon Atma as one which is destroyed, both of these do not know.
All these are second chapter. We
Second
discussed
chapter.
all this in second chapter. Yeah.
Atma is neither
Let
the
me read,
agent.
Amma. Let me read.
Yeah.
Atma is neither the agent nor the object of an action. Then again, Prakrite Kriya Manani Gunaihi. Kriyamanani Gunai. Prakrite Kriyamanani Gunaihi. Karmani Sarvashaha. All the karmas are being done by the gunas of Prakriti. Actions are performed by the gunas of the Upadhi alone. There can be activity born of Sattva and backed by Rajas, and activity born of Rajas and backed by Sattva. One born of Rajas backed by Tamas, or one born of Tamas backed by Rajas. All our actions can be divided into these four categories, all driven by the gunas of Prakriti. The Purusha Atma, obtaining in the Upadhi called Prakriti, performs no action.
So now the second question of Arjuna, what is the difference between Purusha and Prakriti? That itself is getting explained here. Purusha is you, Atma. Prakriti is what is happening all around because of the combination of Rajas, Sattva and Tamas in all of yeah.
Footnote Gita 5.13.
Yeah, we have read that before, yeah.
The one who knows Atma does not perform any action. Actions only take place. He says, Pashyan, Shrinvan, Sparshan, Jigran, Ashnan, Gachan, Swapan, Swasan, Pralapan, Visrujan, Grihan, Unmisan, Nimisan, Api Indriyani, Indriyarteshu Vartante, Iti Dharayan, Aham na Kinchit, Karomi iti Manyeta Tatvaita.
So
Even
beautiful.
see-
So very clear. Yeah.
Tattva-vid.
Even seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, going, breathing, talking, letting go, grasping, opening and closing the eyelids, sense organs move about among the sense objects. The knower of the truth would see, I do not do anything.
All this we have seen. That's why he is
Yeah,
quoting
fifth
it.
chapter.
Footnote, Gita 5.8 to 9.
Yeah.
8 to 9.
And
Eight
Gita
and
4.18, where Prakriti is described. Ajopi sanna, ve atmapi sanna, bhutanam ishwaropi sanna, prakritim swam adhishtaya, sambhavami atmamaya. He explained what is Prakriti. Then the next 4.18, what he says, karmani akarmaya pasche, akarmani cha karmaya, sa buddhiman manushyesu, sa yuktaha krishna karmakrit. Fellow who says sees actionlessness in action and action in actionlessness, he is a buddhiman. He says he is already krishna karmakrit. He has done whatever that is to be done in life. Once he understands, by this understanding, he has done whatever is to be done in his life. The yuktaha krishna karmakrit. He has done everything. He does not have to do any further because he has understood life. By sitting and a lazy person sitting in a easy chair, he will say, I am sitting quiet. The very fact he says that I am sitting quiet, he is doing karma. As simple as that. And a person who does not associate himself that I am doing this, I am doing that, he keeps doing whatever is there, the Prakriti, like whenever he is hungry, he goes and eats. Whenever he is thirsty, he drinks. Whenever he has to go somewhere, he goes. Whatever. But he doesn't say, I am doing. So he is able to see actionlessness in action. And a person who doesn't understand, he will try to say, I am actionless, but he is doing action of being lazy. So these two things are differentiated properly. If the understanding is clear, you have done whatever is that is to be done in your life. So that is the beauty of that. But for that, the previous verse you have to understand. Ajopi sanna, vyayatmapi sanna, bhutanam ishwaropi sanna, prakritim swam adhishtaya. Prakritim is in my being, my grace, that prakriti, prakritim swam adhishtaya, sambhavami atmamaya. Whatever that is happening in front of me is happening in my grace. If you are able to say that, Bhagavan says, I say this, Sambhavami. If you say it, you can also say the same thing. But you have to understand, like I understand. It tells Arjuna. So that is what, it's precisely what it is all about. Yeah.
Actually, Swamiji, this Arjuna hearing from Krishna, if you look at it in a very colloquial manner, Swamiji, he is going to wage war. So Krishna is giving all the Upadesha at this time. It's something like I'm going out, someone is telling me something. I will only partially hear it. That's why later he forgets it actually, right? I
Yeah,
feel
that's why
like
that Uttara Gita and all, where he, before Bhagavan leaves the scene, he wants him to
Uttara
tell it again. You told me a lot of things at the bar. Some of them I don't remember. Can you recount for me? He says. Then Bhagavan recounts. That's called Uttara Gita. That is the story part. Basically, that is the story part of it. There is to be a completion for the story, it does that. So, like you, the question you have raised, so many people would have raised. So, for answering them, the Uttara Gita is given. But the fact is, the Upadesha is there. Whether he got it or not, you and I can get it. Because we are not facing the war.
But also, also because like some people like Prashant will raise this question, Arjuna has asked him.
Yeah.
That's what they always say in the discourses.
That
It
is
is not that
problem.
Arjuna
That's not
asked
like
all
a
this.
ask. That is also true. Yeah, that's also possible. Yeah, I agree.
the Gita also says in the 4th chapter, Karmani akarma ya pashyet, akarmani cha karma yaha, sa buddhiman manushyeshu. He who sees actionlessness in activity and sees action in inactivity, he among men is wise.
Good. And whatever I had in mind, the Swamiji is telling the same thing.
Footnote Gita 4.18. That I am a karta and Bhagavan is the creator of the world is all figurative, upachara. I do not undergo any change at all and hence do not perform any action. Similarly, Bhagavan says, Tasya kartaram api mam viddhi akartaram avyayam. Understand me as the karta of it. This fourfold division of people based on guna and karma also understand that I am changeless akarta. In various places in the Gita, this was shown by Bhagavan and again explained by Shankara as well as all the teachers in the Sampradaya. All say the same thing because knowledge is involved here. There is no other way of looking at it. So the Swarupa of the Kshetrajna remains unaffected by anything witnessed. One final problem is now raised, which echoes an earlier objection. When there is no action or things such as agent that are associated with action, nor any result, for all those being purely superimposed upon Atma due to avidya, who is to perform the karmas enjoined by the Shastra? Only those who are ignorant will be eligible to perform them, and yet we see that Panditas perform karmas. Therefore, he says again, Shastra is useless in that it is only for the ignorant. To which Shankara responds by saying that this is correct. Karma enjoined by the Shastra is meant only for the avidwan, not the vidwan. The same Shastra that asks you to do various karmas for variety of results also says that if you want to get rid of this punya and papa and the whole circle of karma, you have to get rid of doership, kartrutva. That is not accomplished by surrender because the one who surrenders is himself the karta. The wake of the knowledge that Atma is akarta, kartrutva is surrendered. For the one who knows this, there is nothing to be done. Atmani evacha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate. For the one who discovers well being an Atma himself, there is nothing to be done. That is fulfillment. Everything that is to be done is done. The first verse, which said that this body is the kshetra and the one who knows this body is the kshetrajna, is a cryptic statement and therefore has to be explained. Does it mean that the body alone is kshetra or is the world also kshetra? If it is body, does it mean the physical body or the subtle body? There are two verses now explaining this further and later there will be some more.
Yeah, basically why he is choosing that way, because that is where the difficulty is. All of us know outside this body, whatever it is a field of activity. That is kshetra, that everyone can understand. Only within the body we think that the body is me and I am the body. Both the identification is there. Body is me and I am the body. That identification is more difficult. That is where the problem lies. So they have taken where the problem lies, he has taken and talked about is kshetra and kshetrajna. Now the other thing part of it, whatever outside my body is world, etc., that it is kshetra, it is obviously known. So now he is taking it up separately.
Verse 3 to 6. Bhagavan explains the nature of kshetra by describing its constituents. Takshetram yatcha yadrikcha yadikari yatascha yat sacha yo yat prabhavascha tat samasena me shrunu. Takshetram yatcha. And what is that kshetra? Yat yadrikcha. And of what nature is it? Yadvikari, what modifications does it have? Yadchayat, and from what has it come? Sachayaha, and who is he, the kshetrajna? Yad prabhavascha, and of what glory he is? Tat samasena, that in brief. Me shrinu, listen to me. What is the kshetra, of what nature it is? What are its modifications? From what has it come, and who is the kshetrajna? And what is his glory for that? Listen to me in brief. Now the nature of kshetra is going to be told as to of what sort it is. Yadrik is the kshetra. Yadrik is the kshetra which was said in the first verse to be idam shariram.
Idam
Its
shariram kaunteya.
Its nature is going to be explained by describing its constituents. Not only that, what type of modifications is it subject to? Yadvikari, from what does it arise? Yataschayate, what cause-effect relationships there are within the kshetra itself, and what glories, what shaktis are there for the kshetrajna with the upadi, sachayo yat prabhavaha prabhavacha are all going to be prabhavacha are all going to be told. We know yaha refers to kshetrajna here because the masculine gender is used and kshetra is neuter. The kshetrajna is purely satyam jnanam anantam brahma. It has no power to create, but with the maya upadhi it becomes everything. Who is the kshetrajna with all these glories born out of various upadhi? All that Bhagavan is going to tell briefly, Samasena here. He says to Arjuna, listen to me. He says this so that Arjuna will be attentive and understand because he is going to be very brief. In order to enthuse the mind of the listener regarding what he has to say about the nature of the kshetra and kshetrajna, he now relates a verse of praise. Rishibir bahuda geetam chandobir vividaiv pritag brahma sutra padaishchaiva heturmadbir vinischtaihi. Rishibhihi, by the rishis, bahuda, in many ways, geetam, it is sung, chandobhihi, by the Vedas, vividaihi, as varied, pratak, as distinct, geetam, it is sung, hetumadbihi, by those who are endowed with reasoning, vinischtaihi, by those who are without doubt, brahma sutrapadaihi chaiva, sutrapadaihi chaiva, and it is indeed explained by the sentences which reveal Brahman by implication. In many ways, it is sung by the rishis. It is also sung by the sentences of the Vedas as something that is varied and also something that is distinct. And it is indeed explained by the sentences of the Veda which reveal Brahman without doubt by implication and with reasoning. Geetam, it is sung meaning it is said in mantras or by using pleasant words, bahuda, in many ways by the rishis. How have they said it? Through the Veda, chandobhihi. Chandas means meter, and because the Veda is composed metrically, Chandas becomes a name for the Veda. By the mantras of all four Vedas, this is said vividaihi in different ways. The Taittiriya Upanishad speaks of the creation beginning with the five elements as the kshetra and the kshetrajna as satyam, jnanam, anantam, brahma. In other Upanishads, the kshetra and kshetrajna are presented differently, but all of them speak of the nature of the kshetra and kshetrajna as distinct pratik. One is Atma, the other is Anatma. One is cause, the other effect. One is Satya, the other Mithya. It is revealed by the words of those sentences that reveal Brahman by implication. Brahma Sutra Padaihi. Pada is that by which you understand something. Padyate Nyayate Anena. These words.
That is the rule. Padyate Nyayate Anena iti pada. That is how it is. Yeah.
These words indicate the nature of Brahman, but then what they say is to be assimilated and understood without doubt. For that, the Upanishad itself gives a method of reasoning. It does not merely give a statement, but it backs it up with reasoning, and thus the statements. Hold on. It backs it up with reasoning, and thus the statements are hetumate, they have reasoning. The Taittiriya Upanishad does not merely state but proves that Brahman is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. To prove that Brahman is Satyam and the world is Mithya, Chandogya Upanishad uses the example of a pot and clay, ornament and gold, nail cutter and iron, showing how the form is Mithya and the substance is Satya. Wherever example is given, reasoning is involved. This is seen when the Shastra puts forth the arguments for establishing the means of knowledge. The Shastra says, Yata iha karmajito lokaha kshiyate tata amutra punyajito loka kshiyate. Just as here in this world, any result of action is found finite, so too the results of action punya in another world are destroyed.
Yeah, basically, Shine Punya, we have seen in the Gita also. Shine Punye, Martya Lokam Visanti, Pona Machan, Thirumbi Vanda, Pumanathoda, and you will come back after exhausting the Punyas. Wherever you have something, an occasion to spend, it will always become zero sometime or other, however rich you are. So you will always come back. That's what he says. Yeah.
Chandogya Upanishad 8.1.6. Whatever you do, the result will perish and thus action does not solve the problem. How one gains this knowledge is illustrated in Chandogyopanishad by the story of a man from the city of Gandhara who was abducted by dacoits blindfolded, bound and left in the forest. Luckily, someone who happens to pass that way sees him and out of compassion remove his blinds, unties him and tells him how to get back to Gandhara. Being a thinking person, a Medhavi, he is able to follow the sparse direction meeting difficulties as they arise and reach Gandhara, his home that symbolically represents moksha. With this example, the Upanishad illustrates how one is released from bondage. Thus, in the Vedas, along with reasoning, not only the essence of the teaching, but various methods and things that are necessary for moksha are pointed out. By statements without any doubt, Vinishchitaihi, the Veda talks about the nature of Kshetra and Kshetrajna. They are Vakyas, which are incapable of imparting definite knowledge. Aham Brahma Asmi. The fact that the Kshetrajna is Ishvara can be clearly understood. The glory Prabhava of the Kshetrajna he is going to tell later, and so what Arjuna is asked to listen to here is complete. Having drawn his attention, Bhagavan now says, the eightfold Prakriti.
We will stop here. So till now, lot of this Purva Paksha Siddhanta, you can go through it again.
Yes.
So that you get to understand any doubts are there, it will clarify.
Yes.
Very nice discussion. Now from now on it should be simpler. Yeah. Okay. Om Purnamada
Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate
Om
Shanti
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 Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.
Harihi Om.